countries. What if England becomes communist? What if Spain becomes communist? We cannot remember, domino theory, we cannot allow communism to spread, because if communism spreads, it's going to hurt our bottom line. Less markets for us to sell to. We've got to stop it. So one of the ways to stop this is the Marshall Plan. And so, because these countries were bombed and blown up in World War II, they're in terrible shape. We've got to protect them. They're in a desperate situation. We've talked about before. When people and nations are in desperate situations, they'll look for extreme cures. They'll listen to extreme radical leaders. In desperate times, people will require radical measures. And one of those radical measures may be communism. Our nation's blown up. We're struggling. We're surviving. Maybe we go to communism. Well, we've got to prevent that. We have to protect these markets. We have to protect the idea that we think democracy is good for everyone. So America will lend money to all these nations to help them out. American banks will lend money to France, to England, to Germany, to Spain, to all these countries to prop them up, to keep them going so that they don't become communists. Basically, we say, hey, we'll give you money, but you need to remain democratic and you need to remain capitalist. A lot of people will applaud this. This is called the Marshall Plan of, wow, we saved Europe. This was a great investment. This was a great idea. Give them a bunch of money. This will help them out. The reality is this probably didn't work. Don't put this on the AP test. Do not put the Marshall Plan did not work on the AP test. But, so pause your mind thinking. Now let's step outside of the box and let's go back into the real world, swallow the red pill, and let's find out what really did happen, because this is non-conventional thinking, which is good. Do not always accept conventional wisdom. Do not always accept what you're being told. The reality is, if the government is flooding the economy with a bunch of money and the government is very much involved in all these economies, well, investors are spooked. Just like in the United States, the New Deal didn't work and the Great Depression lasted for over 10 years. The reason why was because investors were spooked. There was way too much government involvement. There was too much money being loaned to the government, and the government was propping up way too many businesses. All this money was loaned to this country, to France's government. And the France's government used that money to decide how to build the economy. All this money was loaned from U.S. banks to the English government. And then the English government decided where the money would go. Do you want to invest in a company? Do you want to start a company when you know that the English government's running everything? They may decide that your company is not important. They may not create certain laws. They may force you out of business. So you stay back and you wait to see the government pull back. And that's what happened here. We really see, and you can look at the data and you can look at the stats, you will see that people argue that, oh, the Marshall Plan relaunched the economy. The Marshall Plan giving this money to the European governments, and the European governments use that money to boost the economies. The reality is there isn't any increase. You can look at the GDPs, you can look at the real growth. What you'll find is once the European government said, all right, we're going to step back and let the businesses make the shops. We're going to let the private investors make the decisions. We're going to let the entrepreneurs start running the show. And as soon as these Western European countries took their government and stepped back away from the economy and stopped getting involved and allowed the businesses to run it, that's where you actually see the real growth. You can look at the data, and the data clearly shows that, hey, it wasn't the Marshall Plan that led to the growth in the economy. It did not shoot it up. While the Marshall Plan, while all this money was flooding into Europe, nothing was happening. So that makes you think, well, what happened? Well, as soon as the government regulation in these Western European countries, as they moved away from socialism, communism, from the war to a more free market, mixed economy, as they made that change, that's when the investment occurred. That's when the real growth occurred. Again, don't put that on test. You get in trouble. The AP wants you to always believe that the Marshall Plan saved Europe because, yay, big government is always your answer. Thanks, guys.